this is an update, and it's straight from the official Cspr network. As you can see on the screen, Cspr Labs hosted the 3rd annual iteration of the Hub Davos. Here's what you may have missed. Now, don't shoot me because I mentioned Davos, okay? They're just pointing some of the stuff out. They do have this thing that taps into a $50 billion sponsorship management industry, Sports Advantage. I looked more into that, and I thought, well, okay, that's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dismissing that. But what really, really stood out is when you get to number 3 here, all right? And that is AI governance. IBM and Cspr Labs revealed their AI governance solution, and it does address third-party risk in generative AI. This collaboration promises transparency and all this cool stuff in regards to AI training data. And how soon is it going to be coming? Well, Q3 2024. Ooh, that's not too bad. So that means roughly around summertime, right? Well, there's also some more bonus news. Cspr is listed on, or I should say listed as one of the top blockchain networks in CVVC Top 50 report. So all this stuff is impressive. But before we get into the specific highlights of tonight with IBM and Cspr, there's a little bit more I want to get into. And it's this. The part where it says about day 3, the Hub Davos report. They focused on reimagining finance. Sessions covered how businesses and governments are envisioning, adopting, and regulating emerging tech to realize more efficient and transparent capital markets. Again, I know we don't do Clearpool coverage every day, but that even is going to help Clearpool shine, okay? So there's that. Let's watch this. This is 2 minutes. We'll get back to the whole thing about IBM and Cspr. Do you hold Cspr? Is it on your watch list? Have you recognized that it's a low market cap gem that for long term, if you hold it long enough, not financial advice, you should see some big, big things. And if anything, in the chat, I'm sure there's one particular individual that will tell you a ton about Cspr. No, not the friendly ghost, but CSPR. That Cspr. Let's go ahead and play this. And yeah, 2 minutes. We'll come back into it. It's going to be a great outline. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's going to be a great show. Please smash the like. And if you really like the show, share and repost. Notice I said repost or post about it on X. Retweet, where you want to call it. All right, here we go.
It's the final day of Davos 2024, and together with a series of incredible speakers and an unbelievably engaged audience, we've been exploring the theme of restoring trust and looking at how technologies such as blockchain, together with AI, can help us achieve that.
Intelligence is a collection of skills and an ability to acquire new skills quickly. You might ask yourself, why is it that progress is so fast in AI? And the answer is because there is a very fast way of exchanging scientific information, and that's enabled the entire industry to progress really fast.
We need industrialization and scalability and repeating execution of the projects which help us to get on the right climate path.
In order to actually achieve net zero by 2050, 50% of emissions reduction has to come from technologies that do not exist today. Yet. And that is where the role of venture capital really comes into play.
AI generated or AI stimulated digital transformation is what you're going to see on fire around the world.
Tokenization, blockchain, whatever, they can replace existing legacy financial mechanisms. What matters in terms of what succeeds is what is more efficient.
If you're just a technologist, you probably think, let's tokenize everything because tokenization is the future. But only if you really sit in the business, you can decide and select the right use case to go for and really moving this transformation step by step to the future.
Thank you for joining Cspr Labs. We look forward to next year.
Okay. getting more into this, I'm going to share some more about all of this cool stuff. And let's jump into this next part. So this next part is actually from Tokenizer. Nicer. I know you guys always, there's always somebody who's like, don't say the Z. Does it really matter? Well, I guess it does. So Tokenizer, with his research that he has here, gets into some of this stuff specifically. Nucleus Finance continues getting active with the CEP-78 NFT deployment on the Cspr testnet. Is this just another NFT? Are we talking about memes? No, we're not. We're talking about utility-based NFTs. We talk about utility in motion. This is going to be one of the best examples you are going to see out of anything out there. You know, we've talked about quite a few with the other things in regards to NFTs. There's no BSV tonight, but when it comes to even BSV, remember what Craig Wright talked about, enabling NFTs as, like, for instance, receipts, and be able to verify that. Again, utility-based NFTs. So let's talk about this for a second. In the past 13 hours, we saw 19 contracts minted. Since 2024 started, which is, what are we into, like 25 days? Yeah, I can't believe it, 25 days. Into 2024, 248, according to Tokenizer, have been minted. Actis getting more active lately. API times ISO 222, that's a typo. Harmonization this year. Further CBDC deployment and testing. Real world assets becoming an institutional narrative. Actually, it is. If you really think about it, if you look more into that, that's a real thing. And now Nucleus Finance is minting and testing smart financial contracts at the rate of 10 per day. This is an example of utility in motion. Like he says, don't forget, these aren't just regular NFTs, like I was saying earlier. Each of these are real financial contracts with maturity dates, notional values, and denominated in various currencies. Now, that sounds cool, and we'll get more into this, but I will agree with this. This will be massive year for DLT, meaning fintech, and in particular, Cspr. Let's blow this up for a second. Actually, let's put it on the other screen where you can see it a little bit more clearly. Just in case your boomer effing sooner sitting on his couch with his dog. So here it is. Let me come out of the frame for a second. Look at this for a second. Let's even take off the whole thing of the, that real quick, and the other one, just in case it blocks your view. And you do see what's going on here. All these minting, all these things being minted. Deploy hash, block hash, the age, 6 hours ago, 11 hours ago. But what is the common thing here? Nucleus Finance. And what's the common thing that's also associated with it? Well, obviously Cspr. And when we get more and more into it, you can just see how this can really, really take off, especially with mass adoption. Because at the end of the day, if your utility-based crypto boasts utility in motion, and it's not really doing it, it's not being utilized, well, what do you have? You have basically what, guys? You have a perfect case of kind of like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Cameron with the, what was it, 1969, or I can't remember which year it was, but anyway, let's just say it was a 69 Ferrari. It's just parked in his, dad's garage. It's not being used, all right? That's not really utility in motion, is it? So one thing I want to point out to you guys is not just this, but obviously some other things that we're going to get back into here in a bit. And I think it's solid. I mean, you get into the nitty gritty of all things Cspr related, and you come to the conclusion that if it's this well connected, they have all these crazy patents and all this minting going on, but not just with garbage, actual solid utility. As the saying goes, what will that be worth in the future? Especially with, like I said, mass adoption. Well, let's take you to the next thing. And it basically is this right here. Now, Quant was mentioned yesterday, but I thought I would tie a little bit of this into Cspr because a lot of you guys are into Quant. And again, solid research from Tokenizer. He says QNT recently summarized the INAPA with EU DLT standardization conference from last month. There were 30 speakers, so they highlighted the most crucial points. True. And basically, one which was Joel Corrado from Cspr. Now, Tokenizer states, we already know IPWE's SATP compliant and Casper's most likelihood of ISO TC 307, the quant network standard created by Gilbert Verdian, many years ago at this point. Compliant given their integration with BSN's DDC network, which is China's only network. As we know, China has been quite forward with the developments and progress of just that ISO TC 307. This is another example, if you look more into it, of quant working with quite a few key industry players that are blockchain DLT related. We've given examples also in regards to what? Alliance Block, right? With Nexera. Tokenizer states that he's expecting some more potential announcements out of these two in the next coming years as standard grade DLT deployment begins. Where's the highlights from December 2023? Well, let's go ahead and share this and also put it on the other screen for you to see it again. And basically speaking, it's this right here. Here's this particular guy. And it is Pierre Marot. He says, quote, if we want to progress to a new world where decentralized technology plays a central role, we need to progress interoperability. How long ago was this published? Well, it's from the Quant Network, and it was back in December. Why is this significant? Well, the highlight. And it's this right here. It says the next panel explored use case specific standardization, in which all panelists were asked what they would like to see happen within the industry, and the answers echoed one another. According to Belin Suarez of Senolech and Joel Corrado, managing director of Cspr Labs, they both said that they hope to see trust in governance that can help to improve stakeholder adoption, business continuity, and resiliency. Remember those key words, trust, and especially governance, because we're talking obviously about AI governance, right? So I'm going to take you to this next particular one, and I'm going to close out some tabs on this. And basically, it's this right here. And it's a little bit back to the whole thing of what we just kind of hinted at or just briefly shed a light on. But about these NFTs. These are not just your run-of-the-mill NFTs. I like the idea that this isn't part of that report of last year that said that 95%, guys, remember that stat? 95% of all NFTs are worthless. Why is that? Because they're basically JPEGs to a sense. I hate to say that. I know some of you guys are NFTs. I get it. I own some too, right? But if we can have examples of the 5% that are utility-based NFTs that actually have real world use case, doesn't this pound it home that much more for why we research some of the stuff when it comes to Cspr? I would say, yeah. Tokenizer re-advises us once again with the research that nucleus finance mints on Cspr seem to be interestingly consistent ever since this year started. Again, back to some of that data that we showed before. He states, we can see that they've been minting multiple NFTs every day for the past, 4 days. Keep in mind, these aren't your usual NFTs. They're smart financial contracts backed by Actis. And I think I just shared that earlier, but I'm going to pound it home just again. There it all is, okay? And you basically see, yeah, we didn't have a chance to share where it said Cspr. You do see all that. And I think I got cut off on the edge of the screen last time around. So yeah, look at this for a second. I've blown that up. Far right side does show Cspr specifically, because sometimes people want to see that. Does it mention that, or is it just something that's on the back end or whatever? You do see it. Very, very cool stuff, right? Excuse me, I meant to share that right there. And I had the tab share. So there you go. One more time. Boom. All that. That's what I'm talking about. This is utility in motion. Any way you want to look at it. All right. Now jumping more back into some of what we have. Let's get into the next part. A little bit more from Tokenizer. Can't thank him enough for the great research, right? So getting into this, you do see on your screen, he points out, it seems as though Davos Hub 2024 must have been like a big one. Well, yeah. CNBC recently shared a publication on some Davos discussions around blockchain for AI training governance. For the Cspr coverage tonight, this is truly your main, subject matter for the night, if you're wondering. That's why it's part of the title. Some big names are keeping watch of Cspr right now, and let's blow it up. This is straight from that CNBC report. Put it on the other screen to make it bigger for you. And here it is. And look what it says. Blockchain, the tech behind Bitcoin, may have found its killer use case by keeping AI in check. Well, how's that so? Excuse me. Well, this was published on January 21st, updated just a couple days ago. And here's some of the highlights. It's this right here. Blockchain could be used to keep check on the data artificial intelligence models they're being trained to avoid issues like bias. Executives told CNBC at the World Economic Forum in Davos. One of the concerns around the AI models, the kind that underpin applications like ChatGPT, there's other ones, right, is that the data they are trained on could contain biases or misinformation. Last part, AI training data can be put on the blockchain that will allow the developers of the AI system to keep track of the data that the model has been trained on to mitigate those dangers, the executives added. Now, this is not the JASMY segment yet, but you do appreciate that JASMY is looking to scale up, going with the AI blockchain solution through, for example, Optimism. And at the same time, even for storage with Polkadot, that layer 0 that we have. But you got to keep in mind, when you see statements like this bottom one, like it says, help devs of the AI system keep track of the data. Well, JASMY is all about the data, and the democratization of that. I like, if you have an AI, this is the point I'm trying to make. If you have an AI that's going to re-centralize something that's supposed to be decentralized, obviously that's going to be a huge problem. Jumping more back into this for a second let's take you over to this next part. It's on the far right of the screen, excuse me. Let's highlight this. And here it is. Goes on to mention, in the case of AI training, data can be put on the blockchain. It will allow the developers of AI system to keep track of the data the model has been trained on. We just mentioned that. Apologize. Cspr Labs specifically, a business-focused blockchain firm, partnered, of course, with IBM this month to create such a system. This is really, really big. I mean, we know that IBM has some key partnerships, Stellar. We even threw into the mix BSV. There's some other ones, but this one for Cspr, I mean, I got to give credit where credit's due, because of this quote here. The products that we are developing, like it says, the data sets are actually checkpointed and stored on the blockchain, so you have a proof of how the AI is trained. And of course, we know who this lady is, Medha Parlikar, right? She's the CTO. She has this quote where she mentions this in the interview. I wish I had the video format, but I don't. But she states, as you see, excuse me, read that wrong. As you use the AI, if it's learning and you find that the AI is starting to hallucinate, you can actually roll back the AI, and so you can undo some of the learning and go back to a previous version of the AI. I mean, what have we seen in regards to like even our home PCs? I mean, you have, if you're using Windows and so on, you can roll back the driver. You should apply that type of way of looking at it to something like this, right? You're going to put it in layman's terms. Hallucinations broadly refer to when an AI system gives out false information. Blockchain is technology. We know about this, but I'm going to get that part. This part, Sheila Warren, the CEO of the Crypto Council for Innovation, said, however, that a blockchain-based AI training data ledger could be the killer use case, of course, for the tech. Then goes on to mention, quote, I actually do think that the verification of an AI and sort of the checks and balances within an AI system are going to be the blockchain-driven and blockchain-backed, according to Warren, who told CNBC during the panel. What do you think in that regards? Do you feel as though that's spot on, or is there something else that we should pay more attention to? Getting into the next part of this, let's pull this up. Another little tidbit from Tokenizer before we take you over to the video example from IBM. So Tokenizer points this out. 25 million patents. We talked about this before. I've done a video about this a while ago, long time ago, sometime last year. 25 million patents minted on chain. 98% of financial contracts standardized. Enterprise AI governance with, of course, IBM. Tokenized invoices for Telangana. I got to get more into that, not tonight. Added in BSN's China-only network. We touched basis on that. How do we know that? Through ISO TC 307 with Quant. Hosted 3 consecutive Davos hubs and counting, and tokenizing 200 billion spirits market. I think we talked about that just briefly maybe last year. Now, jumping into this. This is straight from IBM, and take a look into it. So there's an example of Watson governance. It says accelerates responsible, transparent, and explainable AI workflows for both generative AI and machine learning models. Now, some people are going to say, well, this is not exactly, for instance, the Cspr demo, and I hear you, but you got to keep in mind, do we have something in which we have an example to give you before this whole thing comes out for the Q3? I think the answer is obviously yes, because here's the proof in the pudding. So there's this whole thing of, you know, what they got going on, but it really makes sense when you look really into it and what Cspr can accomplish with, obviously, IBM. It's this right here. Break open the black box with AI governance. It says, while not all models are created equal, every model needs governance to drive responsible and ethical decision-making through the business. IBM Watson governance, for example, toolkit for AI governance allows you to direct, manage, and monitor your organization's AI activities and employ software automation to strengthen your ability to mitigate risks, manage regulatory requirements, and address ethical concerns for both generative AI and machine learning models. Now, there's this demo that kind of highlights this in regards to Watson, but the reason why I want to share this with you guys is to give you kind of a taste of what we can expect as far as a quality AI governance model, but with Cspr. Okay, let's go ahead and play this, because like it says, this particular one is an enterprise-ready solution. Where do we go when it comes to the whole thing with Cspr here soon? Right around the corner. If you rethink, I mean, summertime it'll be here within a blink of an eye. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and full screen this. Let's go ahead and play this. Here we go.
Watsonx.governance is an enterprise-ready solution designed for specific AI business use cases. Let's explore some of the core capabilities built to help govern generative AI, use case inventory, fact sheets, and evaluations. Watsonx.governance provides an at-a-glance inventory of your AI use cases. Preset risk levels and alerts help foster transparency and accountability. Drill into a use case to see more information, including the lifecycle of the associated prompt. A fact sheet is automatically generated for each stage of the lifecycle, delivering easy access to facts and metadata, including the use case name, model type, task type, and the prompt parameters. Fact sheets are automatically updated and contain evaluation and model metrics, so stakeholders can identify where adjustments are needed. Attaching supporting documents and details is simple. And users can quickly export and share a fact sheet, which facilitates collaboration across a wide range of stakeholders and helps enterprises with AI lifecycle governance so they can scale AI with trust. WatsonX.governance accelerate responsibility, transparency, and explainability in AI workflows for business.
All right. In my opinion, that was a great example of a taste of things to come. But one thing I want to share with you is this, not just the technical side of things. How much would this all literally be worth in the future? Well, let me throw back on some of the things because it helps with me with my chopping up the videos later on. But basically, we're going to get into that here in a bit. So I want to share not just what we just showed you, but you got to keep in mind this other thing before we kick it in. This right here. And that was that IBM is named a leader in the IDC MarketScape worldwide AI governance platforms for 2023. So it's not like IBM is just jumping in to get their, get their feet wet. No, they already have a lot of experience. So they already, been there, done that. So for them to team up with Cspr, that also tells me that they were so impressed with what Cspr has to offer. What does that mean for us? Well, in my own notes, I came to the conclusion that while IBM and Cspr revealed their AI governance solution, which basically addresses third-party risk in generative AI, as we know, this collaboration itself does promise transparency, auditability in AI training data. True. We already gave that outline. And of course, this is coming up in, third quarter of 2024. Wow, that sounds bullish. At the end of the day, what really stands out for this? Why is this significant? Is this a nothing burger that I'm just presenting to you guys because I want to cover Cspr? Well, of course not, right? I want you guys to keep in mind that this is really significant because third-party risk, of course, is a major concern for AI. It always has been, probably always will be, unless you have some kind of solution in that regard. And that is specifically with generative models that rely on vast amounts of, you better believe it, external data. This is where they get the whole thing of, oh, the third party, something going to external data, third party, all the way. Hear me out on this. The lack of transparency and control over, for instance, this particular type of data can very well lead to biases that was outlined from IBM, inaccuracies, and also, quote unquote, ethical violations. Yeah, ethical violations in regards to AI. How can AI commit an ethical violation? Well, again, back to the whole thing of biasness, right? This solution promises to mitigate these risks by providing tools to access and track the quality of provenance of just that, the training data. Now, there is this focus of IBM and even Cspr when it comes to specifically generative AI. Generative AI in itself can create, like new content, like text, code, images, faces, you name it. I mean, I'm sure some of you guys seen the really amazing things that people have created in regards to AI to make people look like photorealistic. Like I've seen some videos lately where the guy's like, this model isn't a real person. And it's like, wow, that looks like a real person. The point is that you have to keep in mind that, we have to have a sense of trustworthiness in regards to everything. Gilbert Verdi always talks about what is trusted and future-proof and creating the internet of trust. Other blockchains boast internet of value, so on and so forth. But back to the whole trust thing. This solution, in particular, in regards to this focus on generative AI, does in fact target this emerging field, which offers much needed tools, because at the end of the day, devs have to have the tools for responsible development and, of course, the deployment of just that. There has to be, transparency, so on and so forth, but the ability to track and understand the data to be used to, for instance, train generative models is in fact very, very crucial when you look more into it, to build trust and ensure compliance with regulations. And as we know, compliance and those regulations are coming soon. Does it happen by the end of 2024? I don't know, but you do see a lot more news happening in regards to regulatory compliance and so on. And this is where a lot of people feel as though, well, this is why everything is delayed for ISO 222 towards, full implementation by November 2025. Teach his own, but keep in mind this, back to the subject, this collaboration in itself does promise to enhance transparency, auditability through just that, the AI life cycle, which will do what, guys? Don't overthink it. It's going to make things easier to identify and address potential issues. Isn't that one of the main things that AI should be doing anyway? I don't know if you guys seen that movie Minority Report, but that was like a perfect example of AI and so on, being able to predict things before they happen. So according to a little bit more of this notes, just real quick before we kick it into the next thing, the real juicy part of why you want to pay attention to this, even if you're not the nerd that doesn't even want to hear about this stuff, and that is this. It's a collaborative effort of experience and expertise. It's the saying goes, birds of the feather flock together, but experts working with experts. Hear me out. By combining IBM's AI tech with Cspr's data risk management expertise, this in itself will create a powerful, what they call synergy. IBM, as we know, does very well bring this experience in AI governance and model development. Hence, we gave you those examples. While Cspr, listen to this part, provides its capabilities in data quality and, of course, assurance. Combine those two together for a collaborative effort, and I think you have a massive win that most, I hate to say it, content creators and crypto enthusiasts aren't talking about. How about this part? Do we have what they call early mover advantage? Maybe you heard about this on some other recorded shows or chopped up videos from other content creators and get tired of hearing about the early mover advantage, but it's a real thing. Listen to this part too. By addressing third-party risk in generative AI early, IBM and Cspr position themselves as leaders in this growing market. Did you not hear what I just said? Or are you focusing on pogo sticks and Caroline? I'll repeat it just in case you missed it. IBM and Cspr are positioning themselves as the industry leaders in this growing market. And how much is Cspr at this moment? Yeah, look into it. Not very much, right? Pennies, basically. And still considered a low market cap gem. Are you going to not look more into this? And if anything, are you going to be the type of person which a few years down the road, you said to yourself, my God, that was super cheap. I didn't get into it. Teach his own. I'm not into everything either, so I won't beat you guys up about that. But keep in mind, this collaborative effort with IBM and Cspr specifically could very well give them both a significant advantage over competitors who are slow to adapt. And what stands out in that regard? Because that's a great question. If I was watching or listening to this, wherever you are right now, tuning in, I'd be asking these things. Yeah, Max, what does stand out? Well, three main things. How about a focus on third-party risk? Back to the whole thing of third-party biasness and stuff like that, or external data. This is a relatively new and underserved area in AI governance. True. This also makes it a solution unique and relevant. If we talk about, for instance, cryptocurrencies that have scarcity, that's a cool thing. But one of the criticisms that Cspr has is too many tokens, too big of a supply, more of the tokens can be released and so on. And some people kind of stare away from it, right? Well, also, you got to keep in mind that that is why they have such a unique, awesome, in my opinion, they're a really cool staking platform. We could agree to disagree on it. But now take into the equation that Cspr does, in fact, have something that's quote unquote unique, that's not like all the other blockchains out there and so on, then that does make it stand out. And it does make it more relevant for its own personal use case. This integration with generative AI will, in fact, help create a specific, again, back to the whole thing of being unique, focus for Cspr and IBM, in which this solution will make it even more targeted and valuable. Because when you become the industry leader, then everybody is looking upon you to set what, guys? the standard moving forward. Third part that we're talking about real quick. The collaboration of established players. What other established players? Well, the partnership between IBM and Cspr does very well bring together industry leaders, which will increase the solution's credibility and, of course, potential impact, mass adoption, you name it. Overall, let's keep this in mind. This collaboration is a significant step forward in addressing the challenges of course, just that we're talking about, the third-party risk assessment in generative AI. Very true. It has the potential to improve trustworthiness, back to Gilbert Verdi when he was always talking about that, transparency, and last but not least, the whole point of a non-biased AI, and that basically is ethical development of this powerful tech. You know, like some people point out, is this tech going to be so biased that's going to turn on us, become Skynet or something crazy? I know that sounds nuts, but say what you want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually take you to the last part of this. And in my opinion, this is the juicy part. And this is something that was really interesting, to say the least. This comes from a Qualcomm report. Even if you're not into Cspr, listen to this for a second. So Qualcomm comes out with this. Generative AI economy. Worth how much? Yeah, that's not a typo. $7.9 trillion. So when you hear Mr. Mike Cornwell, aka Elon Musk, in the comments going on and on in a good way about Cspr and saying Cspr is a future multi-trillion-dollar market cap gem, and you're like, no way. I looked into Cspr, no way. Point you right back to this. Because for this to be worth up to 7.9 trillion, I'm not saying Cspr itself, but to even grab a portion of this, right? And I'm not going to do the math for you. Some of you guys are great with math. Figure this out. But for Cspr to even just get a sliver, small portion of this market, is absolute game changer. Like it says from the November 30th report, not that long ago, guys, the potential for generative AI is unlimited. According to this November 30th, 2023 report, Snapdragon, and we have done research in regards to Snapdragon a while back, even with the likes of JASMY, and Qualcomm branded products are products of Qualcomm Tech and its subsidiaries. But look at this. Generative AI, so powerful, impacting aspects of the human condition, driving innovation. We know about this stuff. Let's take you down to this part from this particular company. Here it is. McKinsey and Company analyzed 63 generative AI use cases to solve specific problems across 16 business functions and determined that generative AI could add 2.6 trillion to 4.4 trillion in economic benefits annually. 75% of the total annual value from generative AI use cases will be driven by customer operations such as chatbots, representative support, marketing, sales, media development, and personalized communication. Yeah, you better believe it. I was driving home, listening to the radio. I listen to both sides of the radio, so don't get ticked off when I mention NPR. But it mentioned on NPR report about how people want to incorporate their current CRMs with what, guys? With AI. It's a real thing. It's going to take the industry over. And if anything, who is sitting on the sidelines not incorporating this into their marketing strategies? That's the bottom line. How much is that worth? As the saying goes, supply and demand. Tremendous amount of demand, especially when it comes from a marketing perspective, to acquire and incorporate these particular types of technologies. So there's no doubt about the demand there. Getting more into this particular report, it talks about, for instance, you got this whole thing of the industry sectors combined with the myriad increases in productivity, that are likely to materialize when the technology is applied across the knowledge workers' activities. Listen to this key part. The total economic benefit of generative AI amounts to 6.1 trillion to 7.9 trillion annually. Annually. I know I'm getting a little excited. Some of you guys don't like me, stop hyping it, Max. It comes naturally. My key thing is this. This is not something saying, oh, by 2030, it will be that. No, annually. My God. This is in addition to the 11 trillion to 17.7 trillion of economic value from non-generative AI annually. This last part, because we do talk about GDP, gross domestic product, every so often. Compared to the annual gross domestic products by country, the total value of generative AI would rank as the third largest. Yeah, no, it gets better, don't it? Country in terms of annual GDP value, for example, 2022, according to Worldometer, behind only the United States and China. Wow. Like, wow. And we don't talk about Cspr enough. We should. I agree, we should. So when I saw all this stuff in regards to the tokenizer research and even gathering up some of my own research, I said to myself, it's finally time to start talking about Cspr again. Because IBM with Cspr to lead the industry, I think at some point, maybe by the end of the year or maybe at the height of the bull market, whenever that is, I'm leaning more towards the end of 2025. I think between now and then, all the people that didn't talk about Cspr wished the hell that they should have talked about it at some point.